Hello, Ray. Can you turn on your? Yes, your. You're in as me.
You're in as me. Oh, sorry. I should leave as you. Hold on. Okay, I think I was logged on. So give me a moment. I'll just exit and come in as me.
Come in as yourself, mate. Oh, no wonder. Because I was thinking, because I gave Ray all my details and he has all my details. I went to a training this morning. Has anyone been to the meeting training? The Zoom meeting training? Has anyone? Okay, I went to it this morning at 7 o'clock and it's a live meeting from America. And they're going to give me a link to the meeting so I can send it to people and you can watch it if you want. There's so many things you can do with Zoom. You can have breakout rooms.
District 69 does that.
Oh, it's amazing.
They delivered their district officer training via Zoom, and and had breakout rooms.
Rooms. Yeah. Hello, Ray.
Hello. Let me. All right. I'm coming in as me now.
Okay. All right. All right. So
can you do a background for us, Ray? With your green screen?
With my green screen at the back. Unfortunately, not with that green screen. The lighting doesn't work properly on it. It's only lit, so it's one of the things I learned about green screens.
So, Ray, are you doing the timing with the?
Yep.
Okay.
I can do timer. I got my trusty app here.
Okay. All right. So I just want to, everyone is logged in now and I was supposed to just welcome everybody. I don't have to say turn off your mobile phone. But you might want to, if you wanted to turn off your mobile phone so that it doesn't ring while we're talking. And I hand over to Keith to do the address and to Cherie to show the video. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you very much, Julianne, and welcome everybody. So this is the start of an exciting journey. The newest club in WA, I believe, and certainly it's using new technology. Well, it's new for me anyway. I'm honoured and delighted to be the president of this club, and I'd like to extend my congratulations to Marie, to Cherie, to Juliana, and everyone else who's managed to get the club to this stage. So well done, everybody. So before we get into the meeting proper, I'd like to make sure that we're all clear about how the Zoom meeting process works. And so I'd like to invite Cherie Wallace to share a short video with us. Cherie, please.
Short, well, not as short as it should be, but here we go. So hopefully you are seeing this and it starts.
Can't hear any noise.
You
can't hear the video?
You can't hear the video.
No, unfortunately, no.
I don't know then. Okay, that's a fail. Okay, so I could hear it.
Maybe you have to take your headphones off.
So that you hear it through my computer?
Yeah.
Hang on, let me try that again. Sorry.
Try that again.
God, which one was it on? Nope, that's not it. Sorry. I can't remember which window it was in now.
So you share screen at the bottom?
Yeah, no, I know that, but I'm just trying to find the actual
screen
video.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, look, I'm gonna have to play with that, I think. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. It's just tell us a little bit about the video. What's the video
So
say?
the video basically is asking people to remember that we use a headset because it makes it much easier for us to communicate. We're not getting all the background noise. Like, for example, my teenager keeps walking in and out, so you can't hear the door closing. You get the sound much clearer in your ears. It also asks that if you're going to do something that's distracting, like you need to get up from your seat or you're going to sneeze or cough, if you can turn your video off so that it's not distracting to everybody else. Also, we talk about when somebody has spoken, we can clap them. So in an ideal world, we would all be muted unless we're speaking. So everybody's microphone should be muted. And so you can just clap and hold your hands up high so everyone can see that you're clapping, but it doesn't distract the whole meeting. We vote on our in our meetings, so there's an opportunity in the chat window, which is down the bottom of your screen. There's a little chat icon, and if you click on that, you can choose to pick to chat with everybody, or you can choose to chat with one particular person. The voting will work as somebody finishes their speech. The timer in the chat box to everyone will say what their time was, and at the end of all of the prepared speeches, the timer will say that the vote counter will ask the timer if everybody has qualified, and if they have, then we all give our vote to who we thought was the better speaker to the vote counter privately, and then that will be announced at the end. So we're doing voting for best speaker, best table topic speaker, and best evaluator. The timing, we're probably still working through that a little about how we show the colours. I'm not quite sure how Ray is going to show the colours for that. And I think that might have been about it. I can't really remember. Yeah.
Yeah. And just one tip about presenting online is if you want to make eye contact, you actually have to look into the camera.
Not the person.
Into the camera like that. Yeah. So if you're actually looking at the person, you're not actually making eye contact. So it's actually quite weird because you can't see anybody if you're looking into the camera. But that's what you're meant to do.
Okay.
Right. So I've got a green light, Ray?
I'm still getting the, oh,
that's a good green. That's
that looks great. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic.
So I will play with that Zoom and see that video and see if I can make it work another time without holding up the meeting today.
All right.
Back to you,
Marie.
Thank you, Cherie. There's time at the end of the meeting in the agenda. You'll see there's a time for us to discuss this generally, our reaction to the technology, as well as the reaction to the meeting. And just before we get started, I really like to repeat my enthusiasm for this new venture. I'm personally committed to making it work, and I'll do whatever I can to support you and the club, making Stepping Stone work as well as we can.
Lovely.
Now I'm delighted to invite the treasurer of Stepping Stone Club to say a few words, but of course we know her better as the midwife, as it were, of this club. She's brought it into being, and who better to kick us off as Toastmaster for our first meeting than the very own Marie Pickens. Marie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith.
Virtual club.
Certainly as treasurer of the club, as a co-founder of the club, and as someone who's passionate about learning more about this online vehicle for being able to host meetings, I feel we're on the cusp of a growing trend that we need to take advantage of, learn as much as we can, and impart that knowledge to others. So today for our first meeting, we've got the theme of the first time. And what does that conjure up in your mind? Well, keeping it above the waist, let's focus on the first time you ever heard of Toastmasters. I remember mine. It was reading a book. And in that book, this woman wanted to develop her public speaking skills so she could promote her fledgling business. And she inspired me to go find out more. I Googled Toastmasters back in 2003. Discovered a club, went along with my husband, and guess what? I didn't join, but he did. The reason is that the timing didn't suit me, but I was definitely interested in what Toastmasters had to offer. So then I visited another club, and I've been a member of that club for the past 15 years.
Mhm.
So my first time hearing about Toastmasters, my first time joining a Toastmasters club, and perhaps the first time we want to think about this evening is our first time participating in an online Toastmasters meeting. Now, for some of you, maybe it's the first time ever participating in an online meeting. And so you might find some of what we do here just a little disconcerting, particularly seeing your face on the screen. This is something we're going to give people feedback on with the role of the watcher. Some of you have participated in Zoom meetings before. Now we're going to learn about how we could do a better job of presenting ourselves online. And perhaps for some of you, this is the first time for you to learn more about online presenting because you've got a desire, you aspire, you want to develop an online presence for perhaps a personal business that you're developing. Whatever is your motivation for being a part of Stepping Stone Toastmasters, we've got an opportunity to learn and grow together. I look forward to ensuring that Stepping Stone Toastmasters provides the stepping stone for you to achieve your online presence in a way that will leave others wanting more. So never forget the first time you heard of Toastmasters, the first time you attended Speechcraft or a club, and now your first time in participating in an online meeting. Together, I know we can make this a wonderful experience. With that introduction, I think it's time for us to hear from our inspirational speaker. Now, very own Sergeant at Arms of Stepping Stone Toastmasters, Ray Laxon.
Before you do that, Marie, you got to ask the grammarian to say the word of the day.
Ah, yes, okay. Very good. I'm forgetting a traditional meeting.
Yes.
Our grammarian today is Cherie Wallace. Cherie, can you please share with us the word of the day for the meeting? The word of the meeting.
Sorry, I hadn't unmuted myself. The word of the meeting today is auspicious, because I think today is a very auspicious occasion. Auspicious is an adjective, and it means it's conducive to success or favourable. And another example is giving or being a sign of future success. So today being a very auspicious occasion, starting the very first online club in Western Australia, the word of the day is auspicious.
Fabulous. I love it. Well, I think it's very auspicious that we've got this group of people here tonight on our first Stepping Stone Toastmaster meeting. And to help inspire us, let's hear from our Sergeant at Arms, Ray Laxon.
Just starting the time. There we go. About a year ago, I was thinking to myself, what do I want to achieve for the coming fiscal year? I was starting the year off knowing that I was going to be president of 2 Toastmaster clubs. And so I thought, what can I achieve this year as president? And I thought, well, why not go for 10 out of 10 goals in both my clubs? It's quite an audacious goal, but why not? Why don't we start the year off, start anything, any new venture, by thinking big dreams, by going for audacious, big, hairy, audacious goals? And so that's why I started with. And I hope that lesson can be with us today as we start our new journey with Stepping Stone, as we start the new fiscal year in Toastmasters. I ask you, what big, hairy, audacious goals do you have planned for the coming year? Whatever it is, don't dream small, dream big, because anything that's worth going for it's big. It's huge, it excites you, it scares you at the same time, and I think that is the right goal that you should have. And so I set that goal for myself. And you're probably wondering, well, how did I go? And I'm happy to report that I did achieve my big, hairy, audacious goals. Both my clubs Belmont Toastmasters and Aspire Toastmasters achieve Presidential Distinguished and 10 out of 10 goals.
Wow.
And you're probably wondering, okay, how did you do it, Ray? How did you achieve such a feat? And one thing that really struck with me was that I just kept thinking about my goal. I didn't just set my goal at the start and then forget about it and then just go about my daily routine. I did think about my goal. And I think that's something really important for all of us to consider whenever we have a big, hairy, audacious goals, that the journey will be long. The journey is going to be filled with ups and downs. There'll be good days, there'll be hard days, and there were a lot of hard days. Not just because of Toastmasters, but because of life in general. It stops us, it hinders us, it brings us down. And so we need to always be mindful of the goals that we set in the beginning. What were those big, hairy, audacious goals? And I did think about it. Occasionally through my journey, I did think about getting those 10 goals for my 2 clubs. And because of that constant focus on it, I did all the necessary actions, all the right moves at certain points in time that got me to 10 out of 10. And so I leave you that message to dream big and think of your goals every single time, occasionally. That's it.
Very inspirational, Ray, and a real credit to you and your focused effort that you achieved President's Distinguished with 10 out of 10 goals for both your clubs, Aspire and Belmont.
That was tricky, doing timing and giving a speech. It was hard. I was like, one eye on the timer and just to...
That's why we're leaving it to you, Ray. You're the expert, mate.
Oh my goodness.
Well, we should keep that in mind, that maybe the timer genuinely should be, if they're going to double up on a roll, there perhaps should be the watcher and the timer.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
As a way of trying to help deal with that. Moving on our program, I'm delighted that our inaugural president, Keith Cundell, is now going to give us a speech about dropping the crutches. What crutches might they be? Well, let's hear from, with his speech entitled Dropping the Crutches. Yes, Stuart?
Is that a question, Sheree?
Yeah, sorry. Can everybody else just mute if you're not speaking? That's so Ray and Juliana. Yeah.
Ray's muted now.
Yep.
So Marie's not muted.
No, but I will in a moment.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And with his speech entitled Dropping the Crutches, please welcome Keith Cundell.
Thank you very much. No, this isn't a speech about those when you've broken your leg or hurt your knee. Mind you, that's happened to me quite a few times. And it's not the sort of crutches I wanted to talk about tonight. It's about those times when our speech is peppered with those words like so, or actually, like, literally, any of those words. These are the filler words, those verbal crutches. We're all familiar with the curse of and ah. Indeed, we even have a person counting it at most of our meetings. I want to talk about ums and ers, but also about some of the other filler words, and more importantly, how to get rid of them. Almost everybody uses some sort of filler word occasionally. We all do that. But I have to say the impact of these filler words really came home to me this weekend. We went to a concert at the Perth Concert Hall. And in the pre-concert talk, there was an expert on the music to be performed. His talk on Haydn and Mozart symphonies had wonderful content, but it really was painful to listen to through his incredibly frequent and irritating use of not engaging with eye contact, and really quite awful. It made his intelligent and lucid words a pain. It was very totally not auspicious, probably audacious, but not auspicious. Because we arrived at the talk a little bit late, the party I was with, we got split up. But at the end, I went back and talked to my wife and the other couple we went with, who happened to be Toastmasters as well. And the first thing I said to them was, he needs to go to Toastmasters. And this was met with gales of laughter because that was exactly the same thing that they'd all said. So here's a guy, very experienced, very intelligent, using these filler words. It said, I was doing some reading about why do we use these filler words? And some of the experts reckon it's because our brain is anticipating some sort of void in the words and therefore some uncertainty. and it sort of freaks out, as it were, and plugs the anticipated hole with a meaningless sound. Although obviously sometimes that sound is a real word, like actually, or so, or wherefore. Now, a good speech or even a good sentence needs to start with a strong word, and that makes us nervous. And so often we help that task by working into it slowly, by going, let me start by saying, or so, the first thing I'm going to talk about. Many clubs use the and ah counter to draw people's attention to what's gone on, which is useful at one level, but on the other hand, it's rather simply knowing what you did and how often you did it doesn't really help you. It's like trying to help someone to control their sneezing by counting the number of sneezes they have in any 5-minute process. It really doesn't help you change at all. One of the best ways of controlling the habit, I reckon, or even to eliminate, is to substitute an alternative behavior for the words that we use, for that dreaded filler word. And most public speaking experts, if you read up about it or listen to the podcasts, agree that the best replacement for an unnecessary filler word is actually a deliberate pause. A filler word can distract, but a pause can be much more powerful. It can create suspense, slow us down if, like me, you tend to talk too fast, and you can demonstrate confidence. In fact, as Juliana knows, I was saying this to our speech crafters only last week. One of the best, most consistent recommendations I had for them was have the confidence to slow down or even stop, especially when you say something important or crack a joke. Pause. And so what I'm recommending is if we find the filler word coming on, learn to take a pause. It will undoubtedly feel strange at first, but with practice we could be pausing instead of using those awful filler words. After all, no one's ever likely to say in an evaluation of your speech, "That was a really good talk, Marie, but you did pause too much." We never get feedback for that. Another common cause for the overuse of fillers is because, like me, you talk too fast and our mouths race ahead of our brains. And once again, for me particularly, it's a good skill to learn to actually pause, slow down, avoid using the filler words. And of course, if we're not entirely clear what we're going to say, then the filler words creep in as we fumble, as we do at the beginning of table topics. We fumble around for something to say. And if we can be sure, and similarly in a management meeting, if we're not sure what to say, we fill it up with some words. But this is really awful because after all, if you don't really know what you're going to say, whatever you do say is going to be pretty pointless. So get your thoughts straight before you start speaking. The other thing I think, particularly with newcomers, is if we have to give a speech, we're nervous and therefore we say, let's fill up the space with anything. Anything is better than silence. I think that really is not true. Therefore, I think the best recommendation is when you're due to give a speech, practice, practice, practice. The greater the confidence you have in what you're going to say, the less need there is to be worried about what's going to come next, and perhaps the less use of the filler words. Knowing our material, knowing exactly how we want to say it, when we're going to pause, when we're going to stop, speaking the words that matter is going to be important. Final point I'd like to say is that, importantly, the use of these filler words is not related to lack of seniority or lack of ability. My speaker at the concert hall was a very experienced international writer and indeed speaker, astonishingly, and he really displayed dreadful filler words. And yet the speech crafters last week, even on their icebreakers, very inexperienced, and some of them used no filler words on probably their first ever public speech. So it's not to do with seniority, it's not to do with whether you're a DTM or a CC or level 1. It's about how we approach the talks. Practice, be more confident, slow down, and have the confidence to pause. So, using a filler word, as a result of this little talk, I'd like to think for all of us to think about identifying our own crutch words. Mine are so and anyway. So I'm going to try and control or even eliminate them. In that way, we can all become confident and more clear speakers. So looking at my notes, that's sort of about it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Very entertaining and educational, Keith. And given we're an experienced group here online at the moment, we still can be encouraged to think about how we sometimes allow filler words to slip into our language. And in particular, maybe we don't say the ums, ers as much, but we do resort to other real words. I agree with you. For me, so is a very common transition word that I allow to pepper my speeches. We've moved on to the program to a section where we now get to discuss the educational, and in particular to be able to ask questions. And the idea of this on our program is to be able to invite speechcrafters in particular to ask questions, because in speechcraft itself there's very little opportunity due to the type programming to be able to have a lot of Q&A. Now, we're an experienced group, but let's take the opportunity to converse a little, and I might suggest that we all look at posting a question to Keith, and Keith can then share that question from the chat room. So why don't we all just go to open a chat, select Keith, and send him a message about his educational that you might like him to answer. So I'll just give you a moment to do that. Okay, I've sent mine. I sent it privately. Keith, have you received a few? Right, Keith, you're on mute. You can unmute
So I was
yourself.
using gestures, just one at the moment.
Okay, that's mine.
Yes, from Marie.
Put your hand up if you've sent your question.
Yeah.
Cherie, Ray,
I've more of a statement than a question.
Juliana, that's fine. Henry? Still working on one. Ray, you're writing a book. Okay, Keith, would you
Okay.
like to address some of the questions you've received?
That's Bellful, isn't it? I've had the feedback from one person. There's comments that I feel like my pauses were just as awkward as my ums and ahs. I think maybe that's a present. I wasn't going to mention you, but as you said that, Cherie, then I will mention her name. The nameless Cherie. I think that's true. I think that's something that feels awkward to begin with. It's like our hand gestures when we first learn a new gesture or a new way of behaving. I think it does come across as awkward because it's not yet learned. It's a learned skill. I think that it probably feels more awkward to you as the speaker than it does to us as the listener. I remember many, many years ago, long before Toastmasters, talking to people that said, if you think your pause is about the right length of time, then it's probably too short.
Yes.
So it probably feels uncomfortable. But I would suggest you carry on doing it and practicing it and make sure that your evaluator is aware of that and gives you feedback specifically on that. Another person who is also remaining nameless, Marie, is asking about other audible sounds which are not necessarily fillers. Things like that, you mean?
I do
or
indeed.
the slapping of the thighs, which I can't do now. How do you give feedback? Are you referring to how would the evaluator give feedback, or how would I? What do you mean, Marie? Could you like to?
I just wondered if you've given feedback about people making audible sounds as fillers, and what have you tended to say in giving that feedback?
I think it's
We don't count those.
It's quite a difficult one because that's possibly quite personal. People aren't aware of it. They might sort of have other mannerisms which they're not aware of. And I believe that we have to be quite sensitive and deploy all of our interpersonal skills as well as our Toastmaster skills to try and help them with what is a very personal and quite a difficult piece of feedback. possibly, and I'm only really making this up as I go along because I can't recall at the moment a particular example of that lip smacking, for example, but I'd probably try and take that person aside. If I was their mentor, certainly I wouldn't do it in the public meeting. They're probably almost certainly not aware of it. And to make them aware of that in the public meeting would, I suggest, be quite uncomfortable for them. I don't know if anybody else have any comments. This is not a masterclass here. I'm not. Anybody else have any comments on that before I answer a couple of other questions?
Yeah, I do agree with you, Keith, in regards to funny mannerisms that people have, that you do it in private, because very likely that they, weren't aware of that at all. But how do you fix it? That's the thing. Someone who always click their tongue, or how do you fix that? Maybe for them it's being recorded and watching themselves.
Yes, definitely get that feedback so they see themselves as others see them. And then it's a matter of unlearning old skills. You have to unlearn the skill before you can learn new skills.
Yeah.
That doesn't give it a complete answer, but let's move on. A couple of other things. A comment really from Henry about looking at my notes. Yes, that was difficult. I had some notes made up, which I sort of tried to put by the screen. I think for the future, I'll try and use what we'd normally use, which is the little cards, and I can prop them up at the bottom of my screen. But unfortunately, being up looking after the twins this afternoon, I didn't have a chance to write out all the cards. But in the future, Henry, yes, I will definitely do that, or get myself one of those, what do you call it, where you rest the paper, when we used to do typing?
Document holder.
A document holder, yeah. But perhaps a document holder by the side, which would also hold the agenda, so we don't have to keep looking down. So if it could be up next to the screen, would make it easier. So I thank you for your feedback. I shall certainly practice pausing rather than umming and erring, and trying to get rid of actually for the futures. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Very good to be able to have this little Q&A session. And Keith, did it work well for you to be able to receive questions through the chat?
Yeah, that was really good. And you can possibly, I don't know whether you can do it a little bit further ahead of time. I suppose it has to be in the moment, but I'm trying to read them down here and then seeing that some are comments, some feedback, others are questions, and you just need to get used to picking out the question that you want to answer. But no, it's really good. And I would prefer it wasn't I would prefer that it wasn't a masterclass, that you could throw it open a little bit more. But I like the feedback, and I'm happy to answer the questions. But you also have much more experience of some of this than I do. So perhaps more opportunity to say, well, that's my view. Over to you. What do you think?
Yes, making the most of the time that we have and facilitating the discussion. Good. Well, now we've got an opportunity to practice our impromptu speaking online. And Juliana is going to run this session. Please welcome Juliana.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I want to explain what table topics are about, but I would if there were any other guests today. But for this very auspicious occasion of our very first meeting at Stepping Stone, I'm going to ask, the first time you left home for good, tell us a little bit more about it, Henry.
Well, what can I say? Driving out of my parents' house, looking at my rearview mirror, I could see my poor mum standing at the door. Her heart was broken when I left because she wanted me to stay with her forever, I believe. But as she knows, time, when you get old, when you get married, you got to move away from home. And as I drive out the carport, I can see her standing there. And before I left, I did tell her that I'll come visit you every week. And it was a distance of 30 minutes drive anyway, but I can still recall that vivid memory. It was so sad. And I think something like that will happen to me one day when my kids leave the house, is that you stand back and look and go, wow, they're grown up, they're leaving the house now. And that could be a very a sad time, I guess, but it was difficult to leave family home, but you have to look forward to the future. And my promise was coming back every week to visit my parents. Then I kept to my word, and then loved it when I came back, and my favorite food was ready when I come over. So, but the thing is, it made my mum very happy that I came back, and she got my food that I love to eat ready for me and all that. So it was sad to leave the first time, but sometimes you have to make that harsh decision, and you do get rewarded down the track. So looking back, it was difficult for my mum, and now it's something I have to look forward to with my kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. I remember the first time I left home for good. I was happy.
Question, please.
Yes.
What's the timing for table topics here?
Just the normal.
A minute,
1 minute to 2 minutes. What was it?
3 minutes.
Did
I thought it'd be
you
60
This is
to
tricky
90
for me because I only have one timer, so I'm timing the whole session.
Oh, okay.
60 to 90 seconds.
Okay.
60 to 90
All right.
seconds.
Well,
okay.
let's keep going.
Maximize
How
the
much
number
more
of
time do we
people.
have?
We only burned 2.5 minutes.
Okay. All right. Very good, Henry. Only 2.5 minutes. Next question. Tell us the experience of the first time you drove a car or rode a bicycle. Cherie.
Ooh, I don't remember the first time I rode a bicycle, but I remember the first time I relearned how to ride a bicycle. Marie, can you please turn your mic off because I'm getting feedback. I'm hearing myself twice. Thank you. I did the women's triathlon here in Kalgoorlie, and I had to do a swim, a cycle, and a run. It was more of a crawl, a cycle, and a crawl. But I had to relearn how to ride my bike, and I hadn't been on a bike for about 20 years. So I got the old bike out and I took it down to the cycle training. And I was having real trouble riding this bike. It just didn't seem to fit. It seemed quite squashed up, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't working. And one of the cycling instructors took me aside and he said, "We really need to fix that bike. You've got your front wheel on backwards." So I had the whole front wheel turned around the wrong way, but still had the handles the right way. It was the way my husband had put it together, so I'll blame him. But so once I got that sorted out, I got back on the bike and then I started riding. So when I was doing that, I ended up buying a racing bike. And I was riding about 40 kilometres. So I was part of a cycle challenge that went for 130 kilometres. So that was a big thing, but it was great learning how to ride a bike again. Hopefully I got there.
Thank you, Cherie. Riding a bike. I remember the first time I rode a bike. I was 7 years old and I was so pleased, and somebody else came along and it was a young boy, and I decided that I would race him. And then I fell into a drain and that was it. Okay. The first time you did something exhilarating. First time you did something exhilarating. Ray?
Okay, you can hear me now. That's a tricky one because I'm not really a very exciting person. I'm probably one of the most boring persons I've ever met before in my whole life. But I would say that my first trip to the US was exhilarating. I'd never been out of the country before. At that point, I was a teenager traveling with my cousins. And, you know, when you're teenagers traveling with your cousins with no parents, then yeah, you get in all kinds of weird stuff. And I remember the first time I rode a roller coaster. That was when they brought me to Magic Mountain, and my cousins were all like, "Yeah, you know, let's just go for the biggest run, the biggest, the ones with the big drops and the loops." And they're also excited, and inside I was like freaking out, right? I've never been in one of those things, and of course I couldn't show how I was scared. I had to put up a front and be all, I can do this, I can take it, I'm good. But when we were riding one of the roller coasters, instead of me just screaming my head off, I just closed my eyes and kind of fell asleep on my cousin's shoulder. just to kind of make it more easy for me to take the experience. But yeah, that's my first exhilarating experience.
Thanks, Ray. Yes, I remember my first roller coaster ride as well. That was exhilarating. That's for sure. Do I have time for another question? No. You're muted. You're muted, Ray.
Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. We just hit the red one on that one.
Okay.
Time's
now
up.
I hand back to Marie, Toastmaster.
You're muted.
Wow.
I can read your lips, Marie.
With that taste of table topics online, we now move to testing the concept that we want to have in these meetings, which is the vote count. Now, we've obviously had only one speaker, and we've only had 2 table topic responders, I think. Was that right? We had 3. That's right, Cherie also. So why don't we just have a go at sending a vote count to Juliana, so it has to be private, and write down the name of the person whose response to the table topic question you thought was the best response. We had Henry, we had Ray, and we had Cherie. And it's Juliana who's our vote counter. Are they coming in thick and fast, Juliana?
They are. Are you all done? Yes. And the winner is Cherie.
Oh.
Well done, Cherie.
Cherie, give us a thumbs up to tell us how you feel.
Oh, good. I'm not very good at table topics, so that's good.
Experience.
Excellent. Now, this is a 1 to 2 minute segment, Juliana. Tell us a little bit more about the voting that you've seen on the meetings that you've attended.
Well, it's exactly what you mentioned. People were asked to vote for the speakers, as well as Cherie, was it for the table topics as well? I can't remember. But
Speaker,
yes.
table topic, and evaluator.
Right.
Yeah.
So in what, 3 categories?
Yeah. So after each speaker, table topic speaker and evaluator, the timer would put their time in the chat window for everyone to see. And then at the end of the prepared speeches, the vote counter would say, please cast your vote for, or the Toastmaster would say, please cast your vote for the best speaker. And that would happen then. And then after the table topics, the Toastmaster would ask for it again, and that would happen then. And I think before the vote, the timer would be asked if everyone had qualified, so that there was no point in voting for somebody who'd gone over or under their time. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Right. Okay. Well, that's important for us to know for the next meeting, that we sort of conduct that after the speech section.
Yeah.
That we ask people to nominate. But as you said, we ask the timer. So the timer doesn't announce the timing. They just put it.
So they put it in the chat window. So I'm not sure how long I took, say, for table topics. I don't think I even met my time. I'm not sure. But say I did 1:15, Ray would just put in, Cherie did 1:15. And that was all he would do in the chat window. And then at the end, because the other day there was a lot of people in the meeting, not just 6, and at the end of the speeches or whatever, the Toastmaster would say, I think I remember if it was the Toastmaster or the vote counter, but they would say to the timer, has everyone qualified? And the timer would say that everybody qualified, or which I'm not sure what they do if somebody didn't, because that'd be a bit awkward telling the whole group, that one person didn't qualify. But yeah, and then there was the vote. So
All right. Well, we have a go when we keep testing this concept out.
Sure.
With
Correct.
the timing, I'd like to point out that, Ray, I know you did the whole section of table topics, but I think we need to run a second timer.
Sure. I was only able to find another app while people were speaking. I found another app I could download to my laptop, and yeah, it's a stopwatch. So I'm ready for next time.
Yeah, because the lights are best used for the individual responses, and then the Toastmaster could say, do we have time for one more? And you could say, actually, no, we've reached our time, like we do at the club meeting.
Yeah.
I'm ready next time. I got 2
Because
stopwatches.
I think it will really help people speak together. Okay. Now, on our agenda, this is time allocated to comment on our first meeting. We've been doing that as the meeting has unfolded, but why don't we go around the gallery, starting with our auspicious president, Keith Cundell. What are some highlights and areas for improvement you feel from our meeting today?
Thank you, Marie. Auspicious and also hairily audacious. I like that, Ray. I shall remember that. I've written it down. It's also anxiety-inducing, but we'll scratch that one out. Things I've learned: the technology to actually be able to do typing without looking at it, to be able to manipulate notes and agendas without looking down too much. So some of the physical things. Juliana attempted to give me an instant tutorial on how to switch between screens, but I'm a little away from doing that. The other thing is, when I was talking, I was trying to look at people's faces to get the feedback, but I'm also aware that then I'm looking down and across and around. So that's getting used to just looking at that little white light and looking at the webcam and knowing that that's eye-to-eye contact. Whereas I was really trying to see the feedback from other people. But no, I've enjoyed it. I think it's at the moment the technology is getting in the way of my relaxation, but that will come with time. And I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Well, I'm working around the gallery view now. I've just switched to speaker view. Cherie, you've been exposed to the online meetings, having done some research. How do you feel our efforts compared to a more seasoned club running an online meeting?
Oh, well, we're obviously very new, so we're still a little squeaky, but I think it's really good, and we've got potential to do a really good job. I found the online presenters meeting could be a little pretentious, so I think the more laid back flavour of this club, which may be just because we're Australian, is different, which I liked. I do think that we should all make sure that we keep our microphones muted if we're not speaking, because if somebody's typing, you can hear it. If their microphone on their earphones rubs their shirt, or if you laugh at something that somebody has said, that all comes across, and then your picture comes up on the screen, and it kind of takes away from the person who should actually be the centre of attention while they're speaking. So I suppose the biggest suggestion for me would be to make sure that our microphones are muted when we're not speaking.
How do we ask sorry, can I ask a question, Marie?
Yes, you may.
Not Marie, sorry, Cherie. When you said it was pretentious, can you give us some examples? What was different in the way they were presenting? So things for us to avoid in the future.
I just, I suppose when I went into the meeting, I thought that, because I'm only used to brick and mortar type meetings, so you kind of have an assumption that everybody knows everybody and they know each other personally, and they don't. There was people from all over the world at the meeting, but I did find that there was a bit of, could be a bit cliquey amongst the people who were always in the meetings, and then there was people that felt like they were a bit on the outer if they weren't regular goers of the meeting. It's really hard to explain. I suppose it's the same in a brick and mortar club, but I did find that they tended to gush over somebody because they were popular rather than being a good speaker, and it was a little over the top. So I just, yeah.
I think that would possibly be a concern for us if we had, say, 2 speech crafters in this meeting. I think we would have to learn the skills of making them feel welcome, still putting them under some sort of pressure, but not. I think there was a danger of being cliquey. I think 6 of us all know each other quite well, and to have 1 or 2 or even 3 newcomers might be uncomfortable for them. Something to bear in mind. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. I also think in general too, and we've got a guy in our club, in my local home club, where he always starts with a Cherie is such a fabulous, experienced speaker, and he says that in his introduction to my speech. So he's got no idea what I'm about to say or how I'm about to deliver it. So it can be a bit over the top when I know that I've actually got a lot more to learn and I'm not as great as he makes out. So then when you've got guests at the club and they're expecting this fabulous speaker and then they just get like you, it's not as good as it could be. And then we've got another member in my home club who someone's given one speech once, and then he'll stand up and he'll say, this person is going to be a speaker of the future, and he just like pushes them right up to the point where they often don't come back because they feel like there's too much expected of them. So I think when there's new Toastmasters, so speech crafters, we have to be careful not to overpraise them. It's great that they're getting up and being getting the confidence to speak, but I think you can run the risk of going over the top. It needs to stay realistic and genuine.
Agree. Thanks for that. I'm mindful of the fact that we do want to make sure this meeting finishes up on time. So, Henry.
Yes.
You haven't been a part of our discussions in planning for this meeting. What's your take on our efforts today?
Okay. I think if going online in the future, one of the things we need to consider is our background where we speak from. Some things can be distracting because I'm looking at the speaker, that you might have something in the background that I'm looking at than the speaker. So something you have to be aware of, your background. I mean, I've got shades and others have got photos and things like that, but just something you have to think about before you actually put yourself, test the angle of your camera, for example, make sure the background is suitable. That's one. The other one is, I know that it's very hard to demonstrate body language other than your hands because most people just show from the waist up. So you can't really use a lot of body language. So that's another thing you have to be aware of. And with these best speaker, best table topic speaker, and best evaluator, is there an online certificate that you can give out at the same time? Is there anything you give out apart from naming someone or voting for someone to be the best speaker? That's a question. Thumbs up. That could do. Or coins, I don't know.
I think that last comment is a good suggestion for us to consider for the future. I think at this stage we want to master the technology and be able to have a seamless meeting. Certainly I think our speech crafters would be looking for it to be a little more polished. So I think today I'm really pleased that we didn't jump in and have guests or new members because I think we need this trial run.
There were times with a pause, big pause, and people didn't know what to do. There were times there were the technical, I guess, issues when they sort out. It wasn't straight from one person to another. It was just looking at people just waiting. Are you next or am I next? So that's something we have to polish up as well.
Yes,
that's it for me. But apart from that, I learned how to use the chat now. That's very good.
Excellent. All right, Juliana, a quick one from you.
I just wanted to ask if everyone saw Henry raised his hand, or was it just me? There's a little icon.
I did raise my hand. I did.
Yeah.
I wanted to speak at that time.
So when you raised I guess, Cherie, would you know if someone raised their hand, it's just the host who can see that, isn't it?
I didn't see anything. I can't even see where I can raise my hand. How do I do that?
Yes, you can do that.
Under more right-hand side.
Yeah.
Mine just says save chat.
Yeah, so does mine.
I'm using my iPhone, but on the right-hand bottom, there's 3 little icons. This says more. You click on that, it says...
Yeah, we don't have that.
Yeah.
It says save chat.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Are you using an iPhone, Henry?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Really good visual. I didn't realise.
Is
Yeah.
it?
No.
Yeah, I always use my iPhone. I can move
And
it
you can
anywhere
also
I like.
you can also use your iPad too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
But this one's good.
Good. Juliana, just any other
Yes.
comment?
Cherie and I managed to get this app from India that we thought was just the bee's knees. And today I was going to introduce you to that app so that we can use it in our own clubs. But unfortunately, it has been discontinued by Toastmasters International.
Wow. That happens.
And Cherie mentioned something about it on Facebook and people getting stuck into this guy who actually created the app. But it was really good, wasn't it, Cherie?
Yeah. So Toastmasters International stopped it, did they?
It said because TMI said to stop it. Yeah.
Well, that's a shame because there was people getting stuck into him, including people from our district, I might add, on
Really?
the Facebook. Yeah, yesterday,
No way.
basically saying that he wasn't using the branding properly, but he wasn't using the branding at all. So I can't see how he can have how he's breached anything. So anyway, but
maybe because he's using Toastmasters, referring to it, and not doing it with appropriate.
But it was fabulous.
Yeah. It was very good. But anyway.
All right. We're focusing on the online presence. Cherie, you're going to be our watcher. So why don't we first of all, let's call for timing from Ray. And then Cherie, in your watcher, you can also give feedback beyond the straight watching on the meeting overall. Ray.
Okay. All right. So in terms of timing, I wasn't able to time the president's address because I was fumbling with my equipment. So yeah, that's a lesson for me to arrive a little early and get set up to make sure that I'm ready to time. So I wasn't able to time the president's address. The Toastmaster, Marie Pickens, 3 minutes and 6 seconds. 3 minutes and 9 seconds for my inspirational speech. For Keith's speech, 6 minutes 42. For the Q&A about the educational, 6 minutes and 57 seconds. For the table topic, 7 minutes and 5 seconds. We were supposed to have another session called Evaluate Table Topics. We didn't do that. The vote count, 40 seconds. And the comments about the first meeting, 10 minutes and 30 seconds.
Fantastic. So let me ask you then, how do we end up with red if we're only had 10 minutes for the comments when it's 12 to 14 on the agenda? Or are you working from an old agenda?
Oh, I was working from the Word document.
Yeah, an updated agenda was sent out today.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's why.
Version control here, version control.
Okay. Were you using, because I got the latest email from Juliana, and on her latest email, there wasn't any attachment. I was looking through I couldn't find anything with timings. I see that you're using that TM Club.
Yeah.
To generate the agenda, but there's no timings there, so I couldn't rely on that.
Yeah.
And the only
a formal agenda tradition.
Oh, I see it now. Yeah, right. I see the.
Okay. Well, thank you for the timing, Ray.
It was tricky, yeah.
All right. Cherie, grammarian, and then move on to watcher, which will be a shared role between you and Juliana.
Right.
How do we go in using the word auspicious?
Auspicious. So Keith used the word twice, Marie used it once, and Juliana used it once. So probably not a great word as it's turned out, but it got used a little bit. But as far as interesting uses of language goes, I'm with Keith. I really liked the term herily audacious. I thought that was fabulous. So interesting. Although when I typed in herily, it's not actually a word. So, but it still sounds really good.
Now, a little comment here, Cherie. Before the meeting started, you had the word of the day on a background screen, but we never saw it during the meeting.
Oh, you didn't? No, because it was going to be backwards because of the way I have my video.
Oh,
I think I needed to
I thought
enable
you
the
fixed
mirror
it. It
effect.
looked okay the last time I saw it go up.
Yeah.
You
just
could
show-
also type it in the chat to everybody that the word of the
Yeah,
day
true.
was
Yep.
audacious. Yeah. Oh,
Yep.
no, auspicious. Sorry.
Auspicious. Yeah.
Cheating.
But I could see merit to encourage greater use that that be your background. You know, the grammarian has that as their background.
Yeah. It's just
You
a
know,
matter
and
of where
they
it fits on your.
They
Well, your,
sit
po-
to
well,
the
your, well,
side
your
of their
post,
view.
well, your poster is, Cherie, you can put auspicious, big word.
Yep.
All right. And wrapping up, what about the watcher role?
Yeah, so I'll start if you like.
Yes.
So I've just made some notes. So for Juliana, I think you're sitting too far forward. You're kind of like this, and it's a little dark, your screen.
Okay.
So Henry, I think you're sitting too far back. But now I know that you're on an iPhone, so that probably makes a little more sense. But it might be easier if you actually have your phone sitting on something higher. And yeah, that's better. You're a bit closer. So.
Yes.
Ray, I'll try and demonstrate what I saw with you. So you were trying to make eye contact with everybody. So in doing that, this is what we end up looking at. Like this. So you're looking at everybody. So your eyes are just kind of all over the, like,
Right.
it's like you were dizzy almost because you were trying to look at all of us. So it's going to be really hard because we learn to make eye contact, but we have to just look at the little dot on our screen. And the other thing I noticed when you were speaking earlier, you threw your arms up, and when you did that, they disappeared into the image, your virtual background. So you had like no arms. Yeah. But like Keith and
timer and speaker. Yeah. But anyway, sorry.
Keith and Marie and Ray are all really well lit, so I think that works really well. But if we can work on our backgrounds, I think that could work really well for us.
Juliana, you had...
Sorry, can I just... Sorry,
Yes,
when you say
sure.
work on the background, do you mean have one or have a different background or...
Well, see, Keith, yours works really well. You've got your mirroring done well because I can read those words behind you. They're not backwards, and you're sitting to the side, so that actually works really well. But for me, with my background, because I've just got a very small piece of paper, when I turn it off, it's just that green piece of paper. So I actually need to, if we're going to be using virtual backgrounds, we need to make sure that we're taking up the whole screen. I'm not sure how Ray's works because he's obviously only got green in part of his image there, but when he uses the colors, it's the whole screen. So I'm not sure how that works.
I know why that is. It's because he's got a higher version computer. Correct, Ray?
I am using a Mac.
Yeah.
Oh my,
Me
I am
too.
I think it's the 5th generation or so computer or 7th generation computer that you don't need a green screen.
Not sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not sure.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, and we're getting minimal snow on, with your head.
Yeah.
They are, yeah. It's unfortunately not. It's like a bit of a hack. The virtual background of Zoom. If I have a proper green screen setup, then it actually looks better. But yeah, it's a bit of a hack right now. I don't know if you notice as well when it comes to the red and the yellow. Like when I move like this, you see there's something weird at my back.
The growth on your back.
Looks like there's something trying to reach me from the red, also the yellow. So I think that's one of the other things about being the timer. I suppose if you're a timer, guess you can't move too much, otherwise it becomes distracting with the background. Anyway.
I just wanted to make the comment that the timing of the sections when we actually stuck to the program were really well executed, and I think it's because the timing was just so obvious, and it was great. Really like that, and that's certainly something to be encouraged. Juliana, back to...
Just the last thing with the timing. The lights are good, but if we have more people on more thumbnails, the timer can move or people actually can move spots when you take yourself off, or you mute, or you stop your video, is to have an audible timer as well, like a little bell.
Okay.
Good idea.
You know, it's when Cherie and I went to the online presenters, we had like 5 by 5, like 25 people in the whole screen, and you're trying to look for the timer because it's disappeared. It's gone somewhere else, or it's gone to a second page. But the timer had a bell. Yeah.
Juliana, if you hover over, or when I hover over Ray, 3 little dots appear in the top of the screen.
Yeah.
And it says pin video, which would suggest to me that I can anchor Ray and he would never disappear.
That's true.
So we could instruct people to pin the timer on the donkey.
So where was the pinning?
You have to hover over the timer, so in this case Ray, and 3 dots, the ellipse appears in the top right corner of his video. So I'm doing this in gallery view.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you got the 3 dots?
Yeah.
And then it should say chat or pin video.
No, mine doesn't have that.
Oh, mine does.
Oh, really? Mine does, yeah.
All right, so I'm pinning Ray.
Yeah, my don't have it.
Thank you.
So now Ray.
Yes, I see it. Yes.
Ray is pinned.
Yes.
Even though others are speaking, it's not switching.
Yeah. And so in gallery, in speaker view, I've got Ray pinned, and he just stays as the main picture, and everybody else is still at the top. So it doesn't matter who's speaking; that's not moving. So that's a good way to do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, good point. Pin video. All right.
I don't know at what point they disappear. Like, how many images could you have on the screen? I suppose
you could have 5 by 5. I
think it is. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if we got to that point, we'll worry about it then. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
I'd like to respect everyone's time by looking at closing the meeting and hand back to our president for some final comments. Keith.
Thank you very much indeed, Marie. Thank you all for helping to get this meeting set up today. Thank you for an entertaining and interesting and a very auspicious start to our first meeting. So I've enjoyed it. There's a bit to learn. I've got some other questions I'll probably send offline to Juliana and Cherie. Got to get better. Can I just ask now, are we fixed on this time and day?
Well, I want to provide some feedback from Brenna. Brenna's job at the moment means that she has to be in bed by like 9 o'clock at the latest. And she said starting at 8:30 just was not possible. But if our meeting was 7:30 to 8:30, she was going to be able to participate. And she's our VPE. And if she can't participate in the meetings, there's no point in her being a member. And I know she would personally benefit from it, and she'd be a great asset. So I know I pushed for the later slot time, but I have no problem with it being brought forward. So I just wanted to point that out.
And Tuesday? It's definitely Tuesday.
No.
First Tuesday of the month. Yeah.
Right. But that's coincides with your twinning.
I mean, that's okay. I mean, 8:30 meant that I rushed through my supper to get finished, but 7:30 would be also awkward, but it's okay. I'm in a strange room. It's not my home, and it's echoes because it's a very big dining room, which currently isn't being used at the moment. It's not as easy for me, but we can overcome that.
What day would be better, Keith?
Actually, just thinking about it, Wednesday would be better in terms of this. I'd be back home, but then that's also a talk about club. Thursdays are very difficult because that's number one. Well, let's stick with this, but maybe we could possibly try an earlier time and see whether that works for me. Yes. I could possibly go and sit in another room or something.
Okay.
But anyways, up to I'll go with the majority. We've made it work today. It's only once a month. So
there's no echo for us because you're speaking into your microphone. If you were just speaking like Marie, there might have been.
Because it's certainly echoing for me. I can hear it even with the headphones on. But
Yeah,
That's okay.
No, not for
I'll
us.
put sound deadening stuff around. I have big curtains around me or something like that.
Egg cartons.
All right, no,
Just wear
let's stick with it.
something
Let's
over
stick
your
with it.
head.
If we have to go earlier, I'll live with that as well. 7:30 would also work.
How will that work for you, Ray, with your young family?
It is tricky, but we'll see. I mean, it's just once a month, so we'll see how this goes. I could potentially just come home earlier, have dinner earlier, and then just get it ready. So yeah, let's give it a go.
That would be great. I'd like to give Brenner a chance to be an active participant.
Yep.
Our next meeting then will be what date? What's the 9th? It's
6th
the
of
6th
August.
August.
Yep. So Tuesday, the 6th of August, but we'll make it 7:30. And we
Yes.
do think that there's a greater chance that we will have speech crafters, because Juliana and I were talking the other day about a more direct way to enroll people from Speechcraft.
Yep.
Rather than approaching them at the end of the program, we just make it part of the housekeeping on the first night of starting Speechcraft.
Yep.
And sign them up. I mean, they still have to sign the form. They might choose not to, but we're not going to make a big deal of making a decision. We'll just tell them it's included in your registration. Could you please complete the form?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which can be pre-populated, and really it's having a look through it and then signing it.
Yeah. I will attend to that at the July course, and also Keith and I will be doing the in-house course in August as well.
CBH one.
Yeah, CBH. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask one other question? If we are going to have our meeting in August, and if we have some speech crafters there, would it also, I would feel a little bit more comfortable if we've had one more meeting amongst ourselves, or a practice, or maybe I just need to do that with Shuri or Juliana or something.
Yeah.
Because we've still got these concerns about the background and the timers and the different roles. Again, like Henry was saying,
I don't
we'll
mind doing
be
that. We don't
learning.
necessarily need a full hour.
No. I'm thinking about 15, 20 minutes just to, so we practice some of this pinning and unpinning, and maybe a little tutorial or coaching session from Juliana or Cherie.
Sure.
You can do backgrounds or something like that.
Yes.
That's right. And we don't have to practice table topics. We don't have to practice giving a speech or even Toastmastering. I think we're adept at that, but we're not so smooth dealing with the online aspect.
Well, sorry, I'm not. I don't feel comfortable, and I would still feel quite concerned if I was going to be opening the meeting and we've got all these other visitors. I wouldn't want it to be a repeat of what Henry said with fumbling with my notes or people not being able to use the equipment, that's all.
No,
but you more competent people, who knows?
Just practice. There's 5 Tuesdays in July. So we're only on the first one, so we've got plenty to pick from. I'm just not available on the 23rd, so I can do a practice one on any of those other ones.
How about I give an invitation? Can everyone make it on the 16th or the 30th?
I can do either. Do either of those conflict with Belmont, or are you no longer a member of Belmont?
No, I'm still a member, yes, but I do meet on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday. So
the 16th is the 3rd.
Oh, the 16th of July?
Yes, the 3rd.
Oh, no, the 16th of July, I actually have a meeting. It's a special Belmont Club officers meeting because I'm meeting with
Handover.
Handover, yeah.
What about the 30th? The 5th Tuesday, the last Tuesday, which will be the week before the next meeting.
30th? Yeah, I don't have much. I'm free on that one, yeah.
Okay. What about you, Henry? We'd love that you are here today, and we would like you to attend.
Yes. Yeah,
fantastic.
7:30 works well because 8:30 I'm half asleep by now. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to sleep soon. I'll get up at 6.
One little piece of feedback for you, Henry. I couldn't understand why your fingers loomed very large, and it's because it's coming to a phone.
Yes, pressing
you would touch the screen, and I'd think, oh my goodness, We're
Oh,
like
you see my finger? Yes.
Yes.
It's like this.
Because I have to use my finger to touch it.
Yeah.
Got
Just
it.
keep that in mind when because I think it's made all the more obvious because you're working with a phone, whereas we're working with keyboards and you don't see our fingers.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fantastic. Well,
All right, I'll put an invitation out for the 30th, and I will also let you guys have a look at the video of this of a recording of this meeting, and I
Can
will
I
also
ask? I'm not comfortable with the video of this meeting being on that YouTube channel
No.
that speech crafters could watch. I know I'm not going to go look
Not
at
this one.
video.
not this one, no.
No, but where are you going to post it? Where it's
Well,
going to
you can still put it in YouTube, but then you can make it hidden.
Yeah. And you
Then
can only
restrict
see
it.
it if you've got a link.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
As
we
long
can
as
share
it's
the
just a link for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit like our educationals. That it's hidden. No one can look it up unless you've got the link.
Okay.
And the next meeting, Cherie, you're the Toastmaster. I assigned you, and I've also assigned all the other things. But we
Yep.
can
So we're
change
just having
that.
the one educational. That's it. Just the one speech.
Yes.
Yep.
Marie, you're doing Master the Toast, and I have the article for it. I'm using the magazines from Toastmasters and picking out
Fantastic.
things to match the theme, or something topical.
Yeah, everyone has to come with their favourite drink.
Yeah,
Yes.
good idea.
So mine will have to be an espresso martini. I'll have to figure out how to make one.
Good. I look forward to it.
I've made sure my can of beer is out of camera
I'll be
shot, so
bubble
no
tea.
concern.
My bubble
All
tea.
right. Well, let's close the meeting,
Thank
and we'll see you. Are you all going to be there? I may or may not be on Friday night.
I've
the
got 2
reward
phone calls to make after this meeting. Marie, you'll be there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay. I'll look forward to seeing you Friday night.
Yep.
Okay,
See
thanks
you
very
all.
much.
See you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Leave meeting.